Welcome to the BuiltOnAir podcast, the variety show for all things Airtable. In each episode, we cover 4 different segments. It's always fresh and different, and lots of fun while you get the insider info on all things Airtable. Our hosts and guests are some of the most senior experts in the Airtable community. Join us live each week on our YouTube channel every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern, and join our active community at BuiltOnAir.com. Before we begin, a word from our sponsor, On2Air Backups. On2Air Backups provides automated Airtable backups to your cloud storage for secure and reliable data protection. Prevent data loss and set up a secure Airtable backup system with On2Air Backups at On2Air.com. As one customer, Sarah, said, having automated Airtable backups has freed up hours of my time every other week and the fear of losing anything. Longtime customer David states, On2Air Backups might be the most critical piece of the puzzle to guard against unforeseeable disaster. It's easy to set up, and it just works. Join Sarah, David, and hundreds more Airtable users like you to protect your Airtable data with On2Air Backups. Sign up today with promo code BuiltOnAir for a 10% discount. Check them out at On2Air.com. And now let's check out today's episode and see what we built on air.
Welcome back to the BuiltOnAir podcast. We are in episode 3 of season 19. Good to be with everybody. All right, we've already got John joining. Welcome, John. Good to have you with us. We are myself, Dan Fellers. We've got Camille Parks and Alli joining. We're hoping to be joined by a guest with us, hopefully later in the show. If not, we'll improvise. But as always, we go through and keep you up to date on everything in the Airtable, no-code, low-code world. I'll walk you through what we're going to be talking about today. We start with our Round the Bases, and there we are. Heather is joining. Welcome, Heather. We'll hear from Heather a little bit in the show, so I'm just going through what we're going to be talking about today with our Round the Bases. We keep you up to date on all things in the Airtable communities. Then a quick highlight on On2Air, our primary sponsor. Then we will learn about Heather and her story and how she came into this world of Airtable. And then Heather's going to showcase her base of keeping her life organized and everything running smoothly. Then a quick shout out to join our community at BuiltOnAir. And then we will end with Camille talking about interfaces and conditional editing. Okay, round the bases. What's going on? First, always fun to wake up and see this, or I guess not wake up. This happened yesterday afternoon. How long was it down? I don't know how long it was. I don't think very long.
20 minutes.
I think, less than an hour in total.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, Airtable dealing with some issues. Got the 503 error. So hopefully that didn't ruin too many things. I wonder if like automations still run when it's down like this. No.
I got like a million because of the weird things around syncing bases. You know, the little trick to like just have an automation run on a schedule to just find a record so that it wakes up the base. I have that running in probably like 20 different bases at least, and I got all my automation errors were like force syncing failed. They're all named force syncing. So it's like I got like 20 of them all in a row from all the different places I've got that set up.
Gotcha. Well, hopefully it wasn't too damaging. Okay, other one. Let's talk a little bit about AI. I think this is new. They finally made their pricing available for AI. So we're going to go through a little bit. So it looks like per user, $6 a month for 3,500 credits. And we'll talk in a second about credits and what that means. So that is on if you're not on Enterprise. Enterprise has different pricing. I believe it's more expensive, but it comes with more credits. And I don't know if that's public information, but that's general guidance on that. And I believe you have to pay for everybody that has like editor permission, right? You can't choose which users can use AI. It's kind of an all or nothing.
I believe so, yes. But if you're on business or enterprise, you can create a separate workspace and only add the people to that workspace that you want, and then turn it on for just that workspace. So you don't necessarily need to pay for everyone in your organization.
But if you have multiple workspaces, unless you're on enterprise, then you're paying for each user on each workspace you want it.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah. So it could get pricey if you have a multi-workspace approach and you want it on both. Here's a little bit more detail on their documentation. Walks you through why to use it, and then understanding AI credits. So it is very confusing. I don't know if you can exactly. It's so they basically like, I mean, even there. So it's based off of like the number of characters in the prompt and the response. So it looks like that's kind of how they differentiate it. So up to 2,000 characters between the prompt and the response is 1 credit. I guess what's the difference between these two? They're both up to 2,000. I don't know. And then this one, 18,000 to 20,000, uses 100 credits. I'm guessing there's like a sliding scale in between there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. So it's tough. You can see how many credits are used in the account page. So I want to kind of keep an eye on that. And I was surprised. I think I learned if you use the formula like help to use AI to generate your formula, I believe that uses up your credits as well, which probably doesn't use a ton of credits, and you're not doing that constantly. But I would have thought that would be like a built-in feature of Airtable. Yeah. So anyways, there's AI. There's also discussion in the BuiltOnAir community talking about it. If you want to see pricing, I think enterprise pricing is shared in there. So, and then you can basically, you get your defaults, and then if you want to buy additional, you can buy more. So you get, depending on number of users that you have, and then you can buy more at the account level. So yeah, that's how that works. Then this was a similar vein coming from X. A little bit of insight if you want to know how it's built under the hood. Airtable made a testimonial saying that they use LanceDB. I had actually never heard of LanceDB. It looks like it's an open source database for multimodal AI. So if you're interested in how Airtable is using AI under the hood, it looks like they are using this LanceDB. So I might play around with that in the future. Cool. And I believe that's all the AI. Any other AI pricing comments?
No.
Not a clue. Still haven't used it.
What?
Yeah, I haven't really either.
That's crazy.
I gotta get
I don't
on.
need your dang AI.
Yeah. They now support multiple sources of AI. So in addition to OpenAI, they support the one from Amazon, I think, the other one. So there's alternatives. All right, moving on. If you want to learn more about AI, here you go. They are doing a webinar from Airtable, learning about interfaces and how to use Airtable AI for added value. So there you go. You can reimagine your workflows with AI and Interface Designer. So that's July 25th. You can sign up for that. Okay, here's a new feature that Russell Bishop, friend of the show, found. Apparently, you can now do 100% stacked bar charts in your group by. Make them look like this. And I assume this is inside of interfaces. Is that correct?
It is.
Yes.
Yep.
I'm super excited about this one. I did a segment on the show a couple months ago, I think last season, showing how to do this without this feature, like how to like set up a percentage field and group and stack so it looks exactly like this. But now you don't need to use any fancy tricks. It's just a toggle, which is amazing.
Yeah, for a while I couldn't wrap my head around how to fake it. This was one of the first kinds of charts that I wanted to make in Interface Designer, and I couldn't figure it out. And this is very useful just to have it out of.
I'm trying to figure out, is the 0 to the 50, that is a value, right? It kind of looks like it's empty and then starts here, but this is just the initial value.
I would guess that either the field he's grouping by has a color that is gray or it's empty. It's hard to tell because the color that Airtable uses for empty is the same as one of the light grays that you can choose in single select. So yeah, it's either one of those things, but I would guess it's a value.
Yeah, when I saw this, I was like, it's starting at 100% going down. That doesn't make sense. How could you? But yeah, that must be the initial value for that series. Yep.
Yeah.
And maybe that was intentional. Maybe you wanted some kind of look like this. So you make that first series that color.
Yep, exactly. I've got one up on my screen right now. And one of my values is for status. It's called canceled and it's light gray. And it looks very similar to what he's got.
Yep. That's a nice little color hack. Okay, here's another feature. I can't remember if we talked about it. I know we had another call offline that we talked about this. So if we've already talked about this, it's worth re-mentioning. Coming soon in a couple weeks, hopefully August. Full two-way sync editability, which also includes linked records, I believe. So that is cool. I know, Camille, you had some questions on this.
I do. What does that mean?
Yeah.
Because the two fields that they mention adding as editable in two-way syncs are linked records and user fields. User fields are pretty straightforward in my opinion. I don't really have too many questions about how that's going to be implemented. But with linked records, my question was, does that mean that you have to have the opposing table also synced in? Or are the linked records virtualized in some way where once you click into the field to edit what records are linked, is it going to show you a window that's querying the original table so you don't have to sync in both? I don't know how it's going to be implemented so that you could actually edit those linked records, or is it just you can remove things that are already linked, which is my least favorite possible implementation because it's the most restrictive. But I'm curious to see how that would be implemented. But once it's in there, I think it's probably going to be fairly useful because having linked records come in as just text is, not ideal, especially if you don't have unique names for your records, because then if you want to relink fields together, you don't necessarily have a unique ID to make that linkage again downstream.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm really intrigued to see how they implement this. I have all the same questions as you, Camille. I don't know what they consider editing a linked record. Like, do they mean like exactly what you said, linking and unlinking things, or like actually clicking into that record to edit what it's linked to? I
didn't know why it didn't even occur to me that you can click on a linked record to see information about it. So like, do we get that as well, how much information is being carried over into the downstream base. If you require both the tables be synced down, then it's relatively easy, right, to have all of the functionality you expect, but you do have those two tables. Is that so much of a big deal? Depends on how many records that you have in your base and all of these different considerations. So
that's my guess, is it only works if you sync both tables. But then what if that table, my guess is, I bet if you don't have both tables linked, then it's not editable. But if you do, then it is, something like that.
And I wonder how they
live
them linked. Yeah.
Well, to your point, Alli, how do you preserve that linkage downstream? Because there is a record ID, but we don't see the record ID in the interface. So under the hood, what's happening when you sync in both tables once this feature is enabled?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my hope is that it's smart enough to know if you add two tables to the same synced base, it could be like, hey, these were linked together in the original source. You want to retain that? It'd be like, yeah. And then it handles the rest of it for you. That would be incredible, because
exactly
so annoying having to do all these automations and keep things together to keep, because that's what I do, is instead of syncing the linked record field, I sync over the record ID of the linked records that it's linked to, and then have all these fancy things that keep them together. And it's very complex and it can break, and definitely looking forward to this. I'm interested to see how they go about it.
Yeah. So if you've already been using a sync and you have this like all editable fields, you should have gotten an email kind of explaining that this is happening. So if it's not the desired, but it'll automatically make all of fields editable, even the ones that currently aren't. And if you have early beta access to this, let us know how it works. We'd love to hear.
Very interested.
Yep. We'll find out. We'll definitely cover this in August. Okay, here's some kind of bigger no-code news. If you are familiar with other communities, this is a pretty big community that covers not just Airtable, but a lot of other products out there. I've had good conversations with the founder, Phil, of this organization. And so congrats to Phil and team. They are now part of Zapier. So they are now in the Zapier family. And so, yeah, congrats to them.
Yay, exciting stuff.
Ops. Okay, here's a fun one from X. I spent an hour troubleshooting an Airtable API call only to learn I mistypoed the table name. Happy Sunday. Never done that before.
I've done something similar in that I try to use IDs wherever I can, and there's been more than one time where I've copied the table ID but like didn't select the first T, so it was just BL and then the I think 14 other characters, and was baffled because there's no way I memorized what the table IDs are, and so I had to clear everything out and start over, and then because I don't know how to type.
Yeah, those are fun. We feel your pain, Kelly.
Oh yeah, it's either that or an errant comma or semicolon. You're like,
yeah.
It's always something small, extra space, little things.
Here's another one. Coders struggling with API calls. So this one, it looks like they were building a wrapper around the Airtable API. And in their wrapper, they had a different value for the like default number of records. And so it was messing things up. And so they used -1 instead to get Airtable's default. So gotta be careful. It's always those little things that are the hardest to troubleshoot. Okay. Here's another one. One of my colleagues said Airtable was a poor man's SQL. I don't know about that. It's different than SQL.
It's pretty different.
Yeah. it's probably easier than SQL at some level. Their query. Well, I don't know. Some ways it's more difficult. So, okay, from the Facebook community, this is a fun one. Curious, what do you write in a formula field when you know it needs to be added to your table immediately, but you don't know what the actual formula is, or you're waiting to create other fields first to incorporate what's your default value, like placeholder? There's some interesting suggestions here for Frodo. Put a number in there. There's one. Don't forget to write the formula when you are ready. Blank quotes. That's what I do. It's boring.
Mm-hmm. I like the guy that says he just writes Bob.
Bob. Yep. Here's somebody very, very specific. Test formula demo. There you go. Any others?
I happen to agree with the other person who's named KT by coincidence. Just a single line text field. I don't make it a formula yet until I'm ready.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That's true. Yeah, sometimes I'll do formula just with the blank placeholder. All right. Here's a question. Easiest, cheapest solution to update an Airtable field by replying to an email. So you have an automation that sends an email and you want to get feedback from that email back into Airtable. And Brandy,
I'd say a webhook
suggestion.
Yeah, I agree with Brandy. I think that's safest because you can't rely on people to type the same thing every time.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're looking for specific words, approve/not approve, either they're going to not capitalize it or do capitalize it all, or there's always going to be something weird. And parsing emails is not easy.
No.
Yeah, even just doing approve versus not approve, if you get the order wrong, then your automation's never going to work. Because if you just say, if includes the word approve, then do this, well, then not approve includes the word approve. So you would have to do it the other way around. You'd have to first search for not approve. And then to Alli's point, what if they spelled it wrong? Then what do you do?
Yeah.
Or they put in the reason. They say, I'm approving this because it's blah, 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 blah. And then it's like, okay,
even just approving, that doesn't meet either of those conditions. So
exactly. You could use AI to get the sentiment of the email, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or we could use a webhook.
Or a webhook.
Buttons are the best way. There are tools. I know Zapier has a built-in email parser. I assume Make does as well. So you could do it with one of those tools, but it does get complex.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And human error is real. You can tell them only write approve or not approve, and there's no way we're gonna.
Or it's like, please write like above this line, and they'll put it like in line down below. That makes it impossible to parse.
Exactly.
Yeah, human error. Okay, here's a cool one. Shout out to Kate Potter. She showcases her website where wedding photography, where she's using the new embed of interfaces. So here's a real world example of embedded interfaces, and it's pretty cool. It's almost like a landing page you can embed, and it's live. So all this information is going to get live updated with the data from Airtable. So that's pretty cool. It's almost like a real life dashboard.
It
looks really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very, very nice. I love all the numbers elements that they've got with the descriptions, and it looks really, really nice.
Yep.
Compliments to the chef.
Yep. Yeah. This is cool. And it's like, I don't even know, just gives ideas of like, oh, we could use this, make it look like this.
Absolutely.
Cool use case there. Okay, here's another tool. I always like checking out tools that touch Airtable. Here's one from Martin. It's called Power Save. So if you like, I know I use the built-in Airtable does have a Chrome extension that allows you to update or create new records This looks like kind of that, but maybe with more functionality. And on their pro plan that does cost money, you can actually save to existing records. So that's kind of cool. So there's a cool little tool you could try out. And they do have a free version as well. And you can save screenshots. So that's cool. Good stuff.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
Nice.
I'm going to check it out. So that concludes our Round the Bases. You are now up to date on everything up to Airtable related. We'll move on. If you are running your business on Airtable, best practice is to make sure your data is backed up outside of Airtable. That's where On2Air comes in. It will store all your data, all your attachments, and your schema information about your base into Box, Dropbox, or Google Drive, and help you to make sure you have peace of mind knowing your data is secure. And coming soon, we'll have the ability to restore it back into Airtable with some cool features that no other competitor has. So cool stuff coming soon in a few weeks. And with that, Heather, welcome to the show. We're glad to have you. And Alli, do you want to ask questions of Heather?
Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful. Welcome. So nice to meet you.
Thank you. So nice to be on. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Absolutely. We're very excited. So you are the founder of Brownbird Consulting. I guess we always usually start with just asking, how did you discover the Airtable community and what brought you into the world of no code?
Yeah. So, well, first of all, I'm so appreciative of this community. I just am so thankful for what you all are doing. And I discovered Airtable, I think in 2018. I had been working I'd been building up my freelance book publicity business. And so I come not from tech, from the humanities, as no code as you can get. But I was working in book PR. I'd sort of built up a business as a freelance publicist for authors and smaller presses. And I was also simultaneously working as operations manager for a tutoring company. So I sort of had my book PR side hustle, and I had this day job. And I had discovered Airtable, and then I had the opportunity at the tutoring company to sort of migrate all of our operations and onto something we had not that long ago been in paper files, and there were a lot of Google Sheets, and I was just like, we need something better. And so Airtable really woke me up to the idea of relational databases and being able to house a bunch of data and scale it up, and also integrate workflows and automations. And it just I don't know, it changed my life. And also everything I was kind of learning and applying in my day job, I was also applying to my side hustle, which eventually became my main hustle in 2021. So now I'm full-time for myself doing book PR, and I house all my contacts and all my client campaigns in Airtable. But I've also just recently started also building them for clients and using the templates that I've developed to help small presses and mostly literary organizations, nonprofits, people in sort of literary and art spaces, but really any small business. As you all know, it's applicable to anything. But this is just sort of where I've come up and what I know, and I can see a real need for people to all get out of Google Sheets. I mean, there are some pretty sophisticated operations that are still just not using great tools. And so I just have become a real crusader for Airtable. And I came across Ben Green's videos and booked a little chat with him, and he was super generous and just showed me what he's working on doing. And so at this point, I'm keeping it super simple. I don't know code. I don't even know a lot of fancy automations. I don't have a databases background, but I want to learn. And I'm also just interested in keeping it accessible for my clients and building them things that are very efficient, but also simple enough that they can operate themselves. So I don't know. I'm really excited and nervous because I feel there's still so much I don't know, but
Hey, that's wonderful and extremely relatable as well. I had almost the same kind of story finding Airtable and doing it for a different kind of purpose, and then it changed my life as well. I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Did you have like an aha moment when you like, was there a particular project that you were working on? You were like, oh, like I really love doing this.
I think it came on gradually, but the idea of like just the whole idea of relationships, and it just sort of like went from 2D to 3D for me. That's kind of the way I think about it, is like spreadsheets are this flat thing. Databases are these relationships where they just like open into one another. That was a moment where I was like, oh my gosh, this is incredible. And another time when we were trying to make kind of a third place, right? I don't know. I keep a basic list of people, basic list of places, relate them to each other, but then you have clients and you have projects and you have just like all the things you want to do with those, like sort of in a third space. And so when I learned about that, it was really revolutionary. Formulating my primary fields was like, yeah. So that was a big one.
Absolutely. Yeah. Those junction tables and
junction tables.
Yeah.
That's the term.
Absolutely. Yeah. Those are tough to wrap your head around. I feel like that is I think it's a nice turning point for most people as they're learning, once they kind of like figure that out and they're like, oh, okay. Like that's the true difference between storing everything in a spreadsheet versus, like you said, the 3D environment. I love that analogy.
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, so I work with publicists and publishers who are, they have books coming out seasonally, right? But they're talking to the same sets of media, same sets of people, like, so it's PR basically. And I noticed that they were copying and pasting sheets of contacts into separate, sheets and folders for every project. And it was like, why are you doing this? Because A, your data is a million places and it's not getting updated everywhere. And B, like you don't see historically over time, like, oh, this journalist has been really friendly to our work, or they like these particular titles or whatever. So just like the way that it can hold historical data and the way that it, you can see sort of it builds itself over time as you add more information to it. And I'm just stunned by how it like, well, I guess a lot of databases do this, but it like, as you add to it, it does more work for you. And you can house your work in it. You can create your calendars and your tasks lists. And so you're actually like collecting the data and working with it at the same time. I also love that it's like so customizable, and that, so many out of the box industry database programs they come pre-packaged with all their functionality. And I just think that like the smaller the organization, the more unique it is and the more unique its needs. And so like helping people understand that they can have exactly what they want instead of having to fit into the mold of some expensive program that they buy. Right. And then they're just like forming their organization to work around it, rather than, I mean, and I know there's probably a whole conversation about like customization versus like standardization and all of that. And it does take more attention to make a customized thing. But I feel like Airtable is in this really good spot where it gives you a lot of tools and it does a lot for you, but also allows you to customize. So I don't know. I'm hopeful. I see a need in the publishing industry, and I'm hoping to kind of come alongside people and be that resource for them.
Absolutely. And that was actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because that was going to be my next question, was like, in the publishing literary world, is there like a suite or like a program that people are usually using for stuff like this? Or is it a lot like mostly run with Google Sheets and spreadsheets?
It's so much Google Sheets. And so even at the higher levels, like I collaborate with Big Five teams, and they're still, or they have their in-house, but it doesn't, their in-house database or whatever that's written for them, but it doesn't talk to anybody else. And so it's hard to share, like for interfaces or, view only, read only views. I've found really useful in like sharing pitch lists with clients and letting them know kind of here's where we're at, here's who we pitched, here's what we're still looking for, here's what we've received. There just isn't a lot of like visibility across teams or across like just like stakeholders, I guess. And the world is becoming so much more diversified. Like I work independently, authors often hire me, and so then I'm tasked with collaborating with the publisher. They have their own set of tools. So I've tried to become like sort of a centralized hub. Like I'll pull everybody's lists together and put them in this place where we can all see them and work with them. But yeah, it's amazing how much is still in spreadsheets. Tools are not aligned, and people are just struggling along without anything like, yeah. Sorry, it's still early here. And
You're good.
No problem.
I'm in Portland, Oregon.
Oh, great. I was about to ask. So you're on the West Coast with Camille as well.
Oh, hi, yeah.
Yeah, excellent.
Awesome.
Yeah, welcome. And we're really happy you're here and excited to see what you've got built.
Thanks. All right. So
you want to share your screen and we'll get it up there.
Okay.
Quick intro. So you're going to walk us through the space that you've got to keep everything in line.
Yeah, I have, I have so far to go, and I've populated it with a bunch of, this is a copy of my actual base, and I populated it with a bunch of fake data.
Perfect.
So our main two tabs are people and places. They relate to one another through linked fields. I guess I have different views set up for like leads coming in from my website. And then filtered by their role. So my freelance reviewers, my booksellers, those that I'm pitching multiple projects to, my publicist network. Some of this is like a little, it's a little spotty because I imported a bunch of, and copied over a bunch of fake data. But basically I have, my person, my people information in the people table, my places in the places table, and they're linked by the linked contacts field, and in people it's called affiliations. And so I can see, who is on staff at a place, which journalists write for them. If I look for, let's say, the New York Times. Here they are. So, we can add people who work, and we can link and unlink them because people move around so much in the media world. And so like being able to really mix and match people with the outlets, and they write for multiple places. So being able to do that is really crucial. And then a few of those junction tables that turns into like in clients, I can work for either a person or a place. So I contract with places sometimes to do, build bases for them or do a season of titles, publicity for them, or I can work with people individually. So my clients are either people or places. They get consolidated here in this primary field. So I have a table just of clients that shows their projects, collects the pitches that we do, pulls in a bunch of data from, the people or the places field from who they are, includes the services. Over here, I have a services table that has like different services I offer, descriptions for each of them so that I can add them to a client project or to a client proposal. We have status fields that are pulled in from the project. So bringing in a lot of information into a central place from lots of other places in this clients table. Same with projects. Projects are like the actual title of the book. These are all titles of movies because I couldn't find like a mass generator of data that was book titles. So these are movie titles. So going
They
with it.
turn books into movies all the time.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. These are all the anyway, the books that the movies are made from. So I've done some fields here that count up from my lists, the number of media pitches, how much we've pitched, what we've received, event pitches, what we've booked, so that I can show kind of like eventually build dashboards. I haven't really done much of this building of like dashboards and interfaces that show like high level data for campaigns, but I like having it there. I feel like I'm building in a lot of stuff that I will have when I want it to do more with. So that's been fun to kind of be able to see my numbers develop. Comps titles is where we research sort of like comparable titles to a project. So it's the, if you liked this, then try. So finding lists of 5 or 10 books that a book is like, and it helps us talk about them. It helps us relate, the new book that we're promoting to books that people already know and enjoy. So this is a fairly new table that I'm having an intern kind of build this out a little bit. And so this is kind of a fun experiment. Templates is where I keep all my pitches. So my language, I have the type of pitch, initial media, event media. I have the project that it's for. I have a subject line. I have a message, rich text enabled field that, has my links, has my language. This is for a real project, but these are the blurbs below. Basically, this is email text that I then, like, for now, I copy and paste it into an email, or I use a tool called Muckrack, which is a standard tool that a lot of publicity departments use and people use. It's expensive, but it's a journalist database, basically, and it also allows for kind of sending emails at volume, but also personalizing them. So you can build really customized lists in there. I find it a companion. I find a lot of things are like a companion to Airtable, but Airtable is sort of like my central staging area for everything. I don't know if you all find this, that like it's sort of the hub, right? It's like the place that everything comes into and flows out of. So this is my templates table where I just keep language and am able to like reference it and build new pitches from kind of the templates of the old ones. And then my lists is where I keep lists of outreach. So every record in this table is a pitch for a particular project. I keep views for the titles. I keep a working view and a shared view. Working is where I work. Shared is what I share with the client, so that they can kind of see the process. But basically, I have status tags that show, we start with like all the places we're targeting that we want to reach out to and what we're asking for from them. So if it's a review or a reading, or if we're submitting for an award. And then when I pitch them, I move them to pitched. When we've got interest, when we've got confirmation, and then when we actually receive media, then I can keep lists of the links, the press links, any attachments. If we make a PDF, I can pull quotes that I have, and then I'm just starting to build into interfaces, kind of like pictures of each pitch or overall pictures of a campaign. So that's kind of where I'm at. Calendars, where I keep basically everything with a date. So I keep a client calendar. I keep all my invoicing in here. So views for month and year, amounts and things like that, I can track. And I also track it in an accounting software, but I just, again, find like this is a good central place for me to be able to see like how much I have on the books and what kinds of projects and how it's spread out over the years. So that's really helpful. And then in my log table, I keep log notes either by pitches. So I noticed that a lot of people like automate emails coming in. So like you keep track, and I'm still very much in like a manual place where if I have a pitch, so that's in lists, and something happens, I will like just make a log record and put in a little comment. And then I have a manual record of kind of what's going on with every pitch. I can do that for projects as well. So I have a section for pitch logs where I can track what's going on with every single pitch, and that's collected under client or under project. And then I have project logs where I kind of keep higher level, like proposal notes, meeting notes, dated. I can track how many hours we spend if I want to, and then just here's where I keep my meeting notes. So that's kind of it. And I'm not like, I'm just starting to figure out interfaces and figure out how to help clients work with those. And I think it's helpful with like a team to give people interfaces, obviously, to like pare down what they're looking at and help them work with just what they need to instead of being overwhelmed by the whole database. Because I think I come on too strong sometimes. I'm like, look at all of this that we can do. And they're like, wow, I can't make head or tail of that. So it's, it's a process. And I don't know, I'm starting pretty low level. I want to keep it simple. I want to keep it accessible, but I think like that's where my clients are at too. So we're journeying together.
And so you're planning to make this available like as a template that you can offer to other potential publishing companies or just in consulting with you?
I think just in consulting with me, I'll set them up with a template that's like mine and help them migrate their data into it. So far, that's what's happening. But I'm so new to it. So I'm looking for like ways to generate sort of content that will help them get a baseline level of knowledge, right? Like what a lot of people are doing, just get people familiar with how it could work for them, give them a few tools, and then bring them to kind of working with me. I'll set them up with sort of an initial template and we're customizing from there. I'm working with a few clients in that way already and figuring it out as we go, but it's working well for them so far. I think because I can see like not just the publicity part, but I can see like, here's where you can house all of your project data and you can also like track your production calendar. So small presses are so overwhelmed. And the reason that a lot of people hire me to do publicity is that their press doesn't have the bandwidth to do the promotion because they're so focused on acquisition and editorial and like just making the books themselves. So if they have a better way to like keep track of the titles and the production process, then it's easier to have a sense of like when we're going to be ready to promote. And it's all together. Like you can hold it all together and see it all in relationship, which just fun.
All right. And people can reach out to you, brownbirdconsulting.com. I love your website. It's very beautiful.
Thanks. It's brand new. I've been working on it this year to sort of hold all of these ideas and be a good platform. So Annie Gerway Design Studio did a great job.
All right. Nicely. So if you're in the publishing world, reach out to Heather. Awesome. Thank you, Heather, for coming on.
Thank you very much.
We'll move on. And if you would like to join our amazing community with fellow lovers of Airtable and no code, join us, BuiltOnAir.com/join. We'll get you in. It's free to join and lots of lively discussion. Thousands of users of Airtable are in there and talking every day. So join us at BuiltOnAir.com. Camille, let's learn about conditional editing. There you go.
All right. So something that I've started to do in some of the interfaces I've built are having sections that are conditionally editable based on, a variety of factors. A common pattern I've seen is having things in draft mode, and once you are complete with something, then it's finalized. It shouldn't be editable. Another paradigm is if something should always be editable, but only editable if it's your record, and then just view only for everyone else. And so there's both of those two different use cases can be accomplished basically the same way. So right now what I'm showing is a very simple interface with only 3 really editable fields before I start touching it. This is from one of the templates Airtable offers for, I believe, conferencing. And it came with it a field for confirmed, which is either a yes or a no. So what I've done is I've added the 3 fields I want to be able to edit at least some of the time, and then a button that has an action or set the value of confirmed to yes. And when you have a button that's set up that way, if it's already the value that it's supposed to set, then the button becomes non-click. So if I go to another record where the answer is no, I have the ability to confirm my submission, which will change the value. But if I do that, nothing changes right away for having things editable. So here's what I would do if I want to make things only editable if confirmed is no, or confirmed is not yes, because it's possible for this field to be blank. So you can see how everything is set up. Pretty simple. It's just these 3 fields inside of a group. What I would want to do is add another group, and I'm going to call this submission details. And all I'm doing is adding those same fields again, but instead I'm going to keep them uneditable. When you add a field to an interface, by default, it's going to come in as read only. Just as a tip, if you want to set all of the fields in a group as editable in one go, you can click on the group itself and go under permissions and hit editable. In this case, I do want to keep things as view only, so I'll do that, but that's just a quick time saver. So now if I preview, I have the same fields twice. This is editable and these are not. So I'm halfway there. The next thing that I would want to do is, with my group selected, I want to adjust my visibility. So in this case, I want this to be visible when the confirmed is yes, or yes. I want the non-editable version to be present when it's yes. And I also want to make sure that my editable version is set up in the inverse. So I want this group, the editable one, is not yes. So if I preview, this is confirmed, so I shouldn't be able to edit anything. Same for this one. And if I keep going, hopefully I'll find one that's not confirmed. So this one I can continue editing. This is a test. And if I do my button now everything is confirmed. That first session goes away, and now the read-only copy is available as well. So just as a note, when you're editing your interface, this can sometimes get a little confusing, which is why I like to give the 2 different groups different titles so I can quickly visually see what the difference between these 2 actually are. Mm-hmm. And then the second thing I wanted to demonstrate is making things visible conditionally based on a user field. The process is exactly the same, but there's a little bit of nuance. Fun fact, apparently, if you create a base from a template and you're looking at the demo data that comes in with the template, created by is blank. It doesn't have a value, which I think is strange. So in that case, I'm going to create a brand new record. I'm going to call this setup, brand new session. So once this is created, now this is the only record that is created by myself. And then if I look at my editability options, I can make this even more specific and say, only allow me to edit this if it's not yet confirmed and the created by is the current user. When you're looking at a filter in an interface, the first option is going to be whomever is performing this action, in this case, Camille Parks. And then the second option would be current user. You want to do current user most of the time because that is going to change by whomever is actually looking at the interface page, not whomever is actively editing the interface. So although the end result in this case is the same, current user is Camille Parks, I want to make sure I do current user so that anyone who looks at this still applies. So if I preview again, this one that I just created is editable because it's not confirmed and it's editable by me. But the one I was looking at earlier, which was...
You confirmed
No,
now.
I've lost it. Oh, yeah, you're right. I did. Whoops. Oh, well. But hopefully you get the picture. If it's not confirmed and it's created by myself, then I'm able to edit. And if someone else were to log in, right now, they would see nothing. So that's another condition that you want to consider. If it's created by someone who isn't me and it's not confirmed, this page would be blank. So I could demonstrate that by just messing with my filter a little bit and say is not current user. This is what someone who isn't Camille would see at the moment. So what do you do in this instance? What you could do is have another group that you would say, let's call this submission pending, and I can add a little description and say this submission is not yet confirmed. Check later, or something of that effect.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would set my conditions for this to try and match this condition. I want to do when confirmed is not yes, and where created by is current user. Now, ordinarily, we would do is not current user, and this one's filter would be is current user. That because I'm demoing the conditions that were used. Mm-hmm. Now, in this case, since I shouldn't be able to edit it, but it hasn't been confirmed, rather than just seeing something blank, I have at least a little bit of text on here that tells me something. Now would be as good a time as any to echo Airtable's own warning when you're using conditionally visible groups or fields within an interface. It's not really meant to be a security feature because it is still possible for you to look at sort of the underlying code for this page and get access to the data that is hidden. Those two sections that I added above this still technically exist on the page. They're just not visible right now. So if it's critical data that absolutely needs to be hidden for privacy reasons, I wouldn't necessarily rely on this approach. You might need something with stronger privacy concerns built in. But if it's a sort of high-level, simple tool, I think this approach would work well. I will note that if you're doing this for something that is supposed to be mobile-friendly, right now conditional groups do not work. So I believe the current behavior is if I were to look at this on a phone, none of the three sections I made would be visible because if it has a condition applied, Airtable simply just doesn't show it on mobile. And then secondarily, this interface page type, the record review, that's not available on mobile anyway. So for two reasons, I wouldn't be able to use this on mobile, but largely because conditional groups in general aren't available yet.
Yep.
Very cool. That's an awesome trick.
Yeah, I like that. And I imagine you could take it as far as you want to with like if you wanted someone to be able to edit the submission again or edit the session again, you could have another button on the read-only one and flip back and forth, maybe until
Absolutely.
It's met or something. Yeah, I like that.
If I had another field that was something like who is the reviewer for this record, they might see for the non-editable version, I might give them a button that would be like update this action from confirmed back into no, and then that would give the original submitter the ability to edit things again and then resubmit. So you'd be able to flip things back and forth and then control who has the ability to perform that flip.
Yeah. And they have visibility on the buttons now themselves, which is pretty awesome.
So for the button that I have, because I'm hiding this whole section, we wouldn't necessarily see the benefit in this exact example, but you can hide the button itself. So you might not necessarily need to show the word confirmed once we've done it, because I have the field visible up here. What you could do is hide that button specifically. So I can hide it if it is yes, and then I'll turn off the visibility on this section really quickly, just so that, oops, my bad, I did that backwards. Something I tend to do is not yes. So now that it's confirmed, I can hide that button away because there's no additional action for anyone to perform. So there's a lot you could do with conditional visibility, and I think it's a pretty useful tool. Again, not so great if you have really specific, very required privacy concerns, but really good if you just need something like this to keep yourself organized so you don't edit stuff that's already been confirmed.
Excellent. Great stuff as always, Camille. Thank you. And that concludes today's show. We will see you next week. Thank you, Heather, for joining. Good luck with everything, and come back on when you've got your base further along. We'll show it again.
Thanks so much.
All right. See you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining today's episode. We hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to check out our sponsor, OntoAir Backups, automated backups for Airtable. We'll see you next time on the Built on Air podcast.